On this episode, we tackle the hard questions.
The questions no one else will touch.
The hard-hitting topics that all Apple lovers care about.
And then tackling the topics we don't care about.
On the Infinite Loop Show.
Tackling the hard-hitting questions that you don't care about, but we do. It's the Infinite Loop Show. I am Michael Gaines.
And I am Kacey. Hard-hitting Coughlin.
Oh, do you hit hard? Let me see those rings you've got on.
Not right now, but yeah, you wouldn't want to meet me in a dark alley.
No, because I'd be scared.
No, I would hack your iPhone so hard.
It's a Mac user. Watch out.
She can barely understand terminal.
Is that how you judge people in a dark alley, whether or not they can use terminal?
Mac users, that's how.
Oh, okay.
You know, like Linux, yeah, they have a firm grasp on the command line. Windows users, probably not.
So
Mac
much.
users kind of in between, like barely, they got a toe in, maybe, I don't know.
I have a short but funny story. Years ago, when Mac OS X first came out, and I found that you can change the color of the background and then just make the terminal transparent. I wanted to do that on Windows so badly because we had Windows at work. That's what we used. I was so addicted to that translucent background that I wanted to do that, and I tried so hard to do that on Windows, but you couldn't. At the time, Windows XP. Couldn't do it. There was something that was close, but it wasn't 100% functional, and I forgot the name of it. But yeah,
I've never really cared enough to look at customizing the command line on Windows. Like that was something immediately I wanted to do in Terminal on the Mac, and I don't know why, but because everyone's like, oh, that's why I use Windows, because you can customize it because it's open and you can do whatever you want. But it's like,
sure,
I don't care that much when I'm on Windows. When I'm on a Mac, like I want to customize more, and I feel like that's the one that lends itself more to customization and changing colors and everything, even though it's the one that's locked down and everything. I don't know.
Yeah, there was another app that I had. I can't remember the name of this one either, but it allowed you to have maybe it was Z-Dock or something. It gave you the ability to have a dock like Mac OS X on Windows. That was a lot of fun to do. That was
There's a lot of stuff like Windows window blinds and stuff like that that's themed Windows to be like a Mac OS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I paid for that. Yeah. I was very much into Windows customization, mainly because of the Mac, which is funny. But anyway, let's get to the news. Let's talk about Apple because that's what nobody wants to hear us talk about Windows. I could talk about Windows, but I won't.
So he continues to talk about Windows.
This week, and nobody gives a rat's ass about Windows. iCloud went down, and Apple Mail, and a whole bunch of services. Did you notice this?
No, I didn't.
I did.
I thought this was interesting because I didn't notice it, and I spent a good chunk of the day at the Apple Store on behalf of some coworkers and clients who were having trouble just restoring. A girl at work who was trying to update her iPhone got stuck and then corrupted her Windows version of iTunes and just like became a huge kind of cluster F. But
wait,
so I took her down to the local Apple Store and we spent like 2 hours there sorting everything out. But never was there a problem with like her iCloud backup, or services or anything like that, which I would think like, if this is happening, if there's a huge outage all day today throughout multiple services, like today would have been the day for me to run into that when I'm primarily, hitting those services, and I didn't notice it at all. And then I saw this at like 4:00 going, oh, there's an outage? Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, I noticed that the iTunes store was down. I was looking for some stuff in the iTunes store, and I just couldn't get it to work at all. But my mail was working just fine. By the way, every time you say Windows, I'm going to take a drink. Some people were saying that it was down for them. I I saw it, but for me, it was just the store. Some people, yes, their mail was affected, but not a big deal.
You know what
But
I did notice was down today, oddly enough,
what?
and again, only because I work in the enterprise and I needed it, was Windows Live login
You're
services.
killing me.
I know. Going back to Microsoft, I needed to log into some forums to find a solution for SharePoint, and I couldn't do that because their live services were down.
Oh man.
Yay!
I tried using PlayStation 3 Media Server. Now, the reason why this is relevant to the Mac is because my Mac is up 24/7. And so it just seemed, what I wanted to do is I have an Oppo Blu-ray drive in the next room, and I've been struggling with how to archive the rest of the CDs that I have, because yeah, I have a lot of MP3. I'm sorry, I have a lot of CDs. Most of them are all ripped in MP3. I've been doing them lately in AAC to have a better bit rate, but in the long run, really what I wanted to do is have a digital archive of my entire library that was lossless. And so how do you do that? The problem being is that the Oppo won't play Apple's lossless codec, and in iTunes won't play FLAC. So if I wanted to play the same songs on my Mac, I could play it in Apple lossless, but I can't play it in FLAC. But the Apple will play FLAC, and it was just this big mess. So I thought, well, maybe what I can do is I can just grab them all in Apple lossless, and then stream them to my Apple using PlayStation Media Server. So I fired it up. It works, but it's really, really ugly. It doesn't work very well. Like it streams the audio, but by default it changed the bit rate of some of my music, so it was playing slow. So I had there's a checkbox where I had to fix it. Why it wanted to do that, I don't know. It does not stream MP4s properly, even though the Oppo itself will play MP4 videos. The PlayStation Media Server wouldn't stream it. The other problem is that the Oppo, well, this is not a fault of the Oppo, but the PlayStation Media Server gives you your entire iTunes library, but not in a way that's intuitive. Like you can't search by artist or anything like that. You have just a big list, and you have to page down, page down, page down. So if you're looking to stream media using PlayStation Media Server, it'll work probably the best with a playlist and nothing else. Or if you have a small library. Yeah, it runs on Mac, it runs on Windows, and it runs on Linux.
Yeah.
And it's free. But I guess I would stick to just using like an Airport Express.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. And like in the back of my head, I mean, and maybe this is just wishful thinking, but you saw with the PS4 announcement yesterday that the whole proposed second screen with iOS and being able to push back and forth to the PS4, kind of the way Smart Glass does for the Xbox.
Yep.
Are you kind of thinking like, well, great, this will fix it at the end of the year when they release the PS4? Or
maybe. Sony announced that their PlayStation 4 will be out probably by the end. They didn't give us a date, but we're assuming it's going to be for the Christmas season.
They said holiday 2013.
Oh, holiday?
So
oh, okay. I watched the whole
year.
thing. Okay. I didn't see them say a date. I watched the whole thing, but I guess I must have just like turned away or something for a second. The one thing I liked about the PS3.
That was when you were writing your hateful post on the forums.
What forums?
Both Engadget and The Verge, I think.
No, I don't do that.
Every post, oh God, the comments are just crazy.
Oh, I know. So they announced that there's going to be iOS support on the iPhone. I would really like to see this in action. They didn't show anything. But if they can treat an iOS device as a second screen, they did say this, though, is that the PlayStation 4 will be a server for the second screen. But I want to see how well it works, because it's got to broadcast a lot of video. It can be done because we all see it with the Airport Express. I just want Sony, and you know as well as I do, because you're a big Sony fan, a PlayStation fan like I am. Sony is good at taking media files and doing what's right with them, which is one thing.
playing them.
Just,
Shit.
yeah, but just playing them. That's one thing I really despise about the Xbox 360 is that I threw an MP4 at it, and I have a screenshot of it. It just basically went, I don't know what the hell to do with this. You take that same MP4 and you throw it on the PlayStation, and it says, well, here it is. And do you want to play it in stereo? Or do you want to play it in 5.1? Would you like to play it? It just does the right thing, and I'm hoping the PS4 does the same thing. And then you tack on iOS support. How cool would it be if it had AirPort support?
Oh, if it had AirPlay, like
AirPlay.
that's becoming such a common kind of thing. I mean, there are receivers you can buy now that have
Yeah.
AirPlay support. So like really it would make sense to like, hello, like why wouldn't you just tack this on unless it's crazy licensing fees? It's the only reason I could think not to, but at this
don't
day and
know.
age, like it seems it should just be a no-brainer and it would be super easy to tack on as just an also kind of rand, you know, oh, and there's AirPlay, you can just push to it like an Apple TV. Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome.
Apple would be foolish to charge Sony too much to license AirPlay. I think that because we know that the PlayStation 4 is going to be Intel based, but we don't know what kind of libraries you're going to need for these things yet. But
No, they
it
didn't
would
go
be
into
nice if Apple could say to Sony, give us a PlayStation and we'll give you the libraries and we'll support it. And we'll charge you whatever it is, and you can have AirPlay in your PlayStation 4, and then you can make it a media streamer. That would be amazing. I think that would be great, and it would behoove Sony to do that. So we'll see what happens. This Sony partnership, I think, is going to be a very exciting year for me for consoles this year, because this is going to be the year.
All the new ones are coming out now.
All the new ones are coming out. The ones that were out in 2008, all this technology, the streaming technology, wasn't quite there yet. This is the time that they're going to have to do it, or at least have it in within a year, because it's a software thing. It's not hardware based, so they can put it in. They can do it. I want to see what Microsoft does.
I just did a quick search to see which receivers had AirPlay in them, just out of curiosity to see if there were any Sonys among them. No Sonys, all Denon, Yamaha, Samsung.
Interesting.
No Sony receivers with AirPlay, so maybe, I don't know.
Sony supported a bunch of stuff, and they still do. They supported it in the PlayStation 3, so we'll see. iTunes 11.02 is up. It really doesn't fix much except some syncing problems, and it gives you a composer view.
Yeah, you don't have as many gripes with this one? Or it doesn't
I'm
fix
still not
your
using it.
gripes,
I'm still using iTunes 10.
Oh,
10.7.
Well, I haven't updated, so I guess there's nothing to report, really.
I don't know which site it was. It was I don't know, maybe it was like 9 to 5 Mac or Apple Insider or something. But people were actually commenting on this, saying, "Why is this on the front page?" It's like, well, where else are you going to put it? It's a website. Where are you going to put it? And I think somebody actually wrote, "This is page 2 news." Like, there is no page 2. This isn't a newspaper.
True.
You just put it up. iTunes 11.02 is out. Just go get it. You pointed this out to me earlier. Apple.com supplier responsibility. Tell me a little bit about this.
Just that Apple is really kind of trying to go full bore and stepping up and literally taking responsibility for what goes on with their suppliers and their supply chain. Even though this is kind of a hard thing to do, especially with a company as big as Apple or Samsung or any number of companies who especially work with Foxconn. You're fairly removed, even though they're your supplier. You're usually, 1 or 2 levels removed from them. You don't really dictate a whole lot what goes on in their factories. So it's always kind of struck me as, because I work for a supplier, and I know, I mean, not strictly of Apple, but we supply to a lot of big companies, and we're probably at least 2, if not 3 levels removed. And so that being said, I mean, you do business and you sell to them, but they don't have a whole lot of sway over you and
Mm-hmm.
vice versa. Like you certainly don't have a lot of sway over them. I mean, they can say this is what we want
Right.
and you can, jump as fast as you can, but again, you're two individual companies.
Yeah.
That being said, the whole Foxconn fiasco and everyone looking to Apple like, what are you gonna do, Apple? This is your company. This is your factory. This shit is happening under your roof. Literally,
Yeah.
you need to come home and deal with your children. Like, okay, and they're doing as much as they can. I have to believe that, especially with Tim Cook at the helm, who
Yeah.
is Mr. Supply Chain.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're just turning a blind eye to this. And especially now that they have this domain, it's apple.com/supplier responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
all together, all lowercase. And it's a comprehensive look at what they're dealing with, what they're trying to do, what they're trying to empower and instill, down the line through their suppliers, not just Foxconn, but everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I said, they can only go so far. They can only do so much. They can only say, look, we're trying to abide by the laws. You guys on the other side of the world, we hope you're going to comply, but like we're not going to come over there and put a gun to your head. Like
No, but they can say, look, we'll go somewhere else if you don't
they can.
comply.
I mean, definitely, certainly a company as big as Apple has a lot of sway with their dollar,
Sure.
but
Well,
they can't come over and just hold a gun to their head.
no,
Foxconn is going to do what Foxconn is going to do at the end of the day.
yeah, it's just that Apple gets the bad rap for it because they're the biggest buyer from the stuff from
Well, I
Foxconn.
don't even think
But
they're the biggest. Though they
you don't think
might
so?
be. I don't know. I don't have like hard and fast numbers in front of me, but they may not even be the biggest. I think the deal is that they're the flashiest.
Well, they're the most well known for sure.
They're the most eye-catching. They're the most kind of like Link-baitiest, company attached to this whole fiasco. Like
Link-baitiest.
you can name off a ton of companies that nobody's heard of that deals with Foxconn. Or you can just name Apple and that's it.
Yeah, they have some subsections empowering workers, labor and human rights. I just want to focus on the labor and human rights. They address underage labor. They said that it's against their code of conduct. They say how dishonest third-party labor agents conspire to corrupt the system, and so they're taking responsibility. I must say they're taking far more responsibility for this issue than any of the other companies.
Right. Like you
Then
don't see Samsung.com
right.
slash supplier responsibility. You
Yeah.
don't see this from anybody else. And like I said, Apple's not the only one dealing with Foxconn. And Foxconn's not solely dealing with Apple. They
Right.
have a ton of other companies that they're selling to. And so, Apple is taking a huge step and being responsible and trying to prove to people and anybody who thought like, bah, this is it. I knew Apple was corrupt. This is how they're making money on all those iPhones. They're employing 12-year-olds, behind the scenes. Like, does that really make sense to you? Do you really think a company like Apple would take such a crazy step and just put themselves out there like that? Like,
No, but look at the people that are accusing Apple of doing that. Android fans. I mean, and they don't seem to realize that their very same phones are being built in the same place. But
exactly. They're probably, the next assembly line over.
yeah, Brazil. There's a Brazilian lawsuit which is accusing Apple of planned obsolescence with the fourth gen iPad. I don't know. This is. I don't know if I would necessarily call this planned obsolescence.
I would say this is like 4 years too late.
Well, not only this is the way I see it.
I mean, we all kind of know this. We all kind of know what's going on, but nobody's like,
well,
I
there's
don't. Nobody's really complaining. Like at the same, everyone's complaining about iPads and iPhones,
hmm
only being a year or less old before you're
yeah.
quote unquote forced, not really forced to buy a new one. Okay, so you complain about that. Oh, I gotta shell out $200 every year. But at the same time, like if Apple didn't do that, you'd be like, where the hell's my new iPhone? This
Well,
shit is
here's
old.
it.
Android's doing blah blah blah, up the block.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
NFC.
I need my new shit right now. Where's my new shiny Apple? Like they would be saying the same. Like,
There's a all right. So the lawsuit is saying that when Apple put out their third gen new iPad, they could have implemented all the technological upgrades into what is now the fourth gen iPad, which I
they're
agree.
they're just specifically for the fourth gen, or it really wasn't even like a. I mean, it was kind of a gen. We're all calling it fourth gen, but it was just
The new
slight
iPad.
updates to the third gen.
The
After
updates.
7 months, they're complaining about.
Yeah, the updates to the fourth gen iPad were not that significant. We're not talking about 2 to 4. Like second gen to
No,
fourth
it
gen.
was like maybe 1 to 1.5.
Yeah, I wouldn't pull a lawsuit over this. I mean, the one thing, and I say I was in with this also, is that when Apple dropped the price of the iPhone right after they released it, that I was a little ticked about that because you still
Oh, the
it's
2G
the
initially.
2G because it's
More,
still got that
yeah,
new
that
car
was a
smell.
bigger thing.
Yeah, that was a bigger deal, and yeah, I went with that, and not because I'm one of those people that just thinks that I'm owed money or anything, but I was a little ticked off that the price dropped so soon.
I was
But
actually
this,
pretty excited because that was when I bought the
yeah,
iPhone.
yeah. So this I don't see to be a big deal, and I don't know if this is necessarily ever even going to go anywhere.
I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. It's Brazil,
Yeah, but
and B,
they're planning on opening. Isn't I don't know if it's open yet. Isn't Apple planning on? Well, not Apple. Isn't Foxconn planning on opening a factory in Brazil?
there were rumors about that. I don't know if they've actually built it or what or how far it's gone, but
Yeah.
that was either I'm pretty sure it was Brazil. It wasn't Mexico.
No, no, it wasn't Mexico. It was
Brazil.
Brazil. It was
Yeah.
Brazil. So you want to make nice with Brazil?
I don't know. It's
I don't
it's
know.
weird. Like every couple of weeks, we see Brazil crop up in the news, and it tends to flip flop in their news cycles. Either it's way pro Apple, like we're naming a street after Steve Jobs, or we're getting our own Foxconn factory, or
Yep.
we're suing Apple because of blah 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 and blah blah blah.
I know. The iWatch, which we were all a little skeptical about, me admittedly, because I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen with this thing, apparently now has been patented by Apple. So
But I mean, okay, at the same time, Apple patents everything.
they
And
do.
everyone does now, especially with technology patents, because you never know. And so you're better off, you're safer, just patenting every crazy idea that you come up with. And speaking of crazy ideas, this looks like one, but everybody from, Patently Apple on down
Yeah.
jumped onto this story where Apple submitted a patent for this thing that kind of looks like an iWatch and kind of looks like a silly early 90s slap bracelet.
It does. It does. I will admit that. I noticed that when I first saw it. But I'm still skeptical about an Apple iWatch. Like I said last week, it would have to do something amazing.
And you'll have to be wearing stretchy spandex and not rollerblades, but actually old school roller skates in order to buy one.
That's right. You have to actually walk
Yeah.
into the Apple Store with skates on. But this is all we really have. There isn't anything about this patent that we didn't already guess from the rumors last week. Flexible display, thin bezel, wrist strap, that whole thing. And then I'm looking at 9 to 5 Mac. There's actually a 3M flexible transparent touchscreen concept video on
No,
YouTube.
there's a couple, and this is on Mac Rumors. This is on 9 to 5 Mac. This is, like I said, Patent Land Apple. The stories all over the place, and each one has different and or the same. There's multitudes of concept pictures and videos, and just like overnight, just these concept
Yeah,
images have kind
yeah.
of sprouted out of nowhere, and they're all ridiculous looking, and I would not buy a single one of these, and they're all dumb and completely un-Apple-esque. I
Well,
just think it's
yes.
hilarious. Like in 24 hours, it seems like these are just like a whole new, genre of rumor concept art has sprung up.
Apple Insider has an article about there's a website called iPhoneDevSDK, and it's one of the websites that I go to on a regular basis to learn how to see how people have solved problems as an Apple developer, an iOS developer. And I remember twice, I think, in the last year or two, that it was either down or it brought up a warning from Google saying, "Don't go here. There's been malicious software installed on the website." Well, they got hit again, except this time they got hit. Reading this article, they got hit by something that compromised an administrator's account, put software on that has not been seen before. That was interesting, and it affected computers from Apple employees. So this thing has gotten pretty nasty. Although Apple put out a Java patch, which when you installed it will tell you if you were infected with this. And I ran it and I installed it, and it said nothing, so I wasn't affected. But I don't know why this website, because it's a good website. There's some pretty damn smart people on here, and they've got a great developer community. Why it's always targeted, I don't know. I don't know if it's their, maybe it could be their forum software is just full of holes. I haven't been there in a while. I don't know what they have, but when I was running
Maybe.
vBulletin 4, it was just constantly hammered. I was just constantly just scraping scum out of my forums. It was terrible. I put on captchas. I put on everything that I could think of to keep the spammers out. But once you get one and they get a way to get in, then that's it. And then
That's what he said.
yeah. So that could be possible with this.
Yeah, and this was the first one, or the same one that breached a lot of Facebook
Yep.
internal developer computers as well by just hitting this site, and then they had internal access as well. And so a lot of people were saying, Facebook is insecure, it's the end of the world. And I heard at the beginning of the week, people reporting on this on, CNN and Fox News and everything, as like, if Facebook can be hacked, we have no chance,
Yeah.
kind of
Well,
end of the world thinking. And like,
here's the thing. Last week, I talked about how there seemed to be a connection with people that I saw on Twitter whose accounts were compromised, and that their iCloud accounts were compromised.
yeah,
Over the last couple of days, there have been reports that there is apparently a building in Shanghai where all these hacks are coming from. All these attacks are
right.
coming
No,
from.
and it's entirely, yeah, a lot of these, and you could almost even, I don't know if they are or not, connect these with the same attacks that were done on the New York Times and Wall Street
Yes.
Journal sites for their evidence relating to certain Chinese articles that they wrote. Of course, the Chinese government denies all of this and points to attacks on them originating, they say, from the U.S. So, see, we get attacked, and the U.S. does attacks too, and see, which can all be total BS, and I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. But at the same time, like, I have to just imagine, like, keeping all of this in mind, you can draw as many parallels as you want, but isn't like the strongest parallel just between a person's working knowledge of the internet and the technology they're using
Sure.
and buttons and links that they're clicking on.
Well, here's the thing. I spent more time changing more passwords the last couple days because of this whole thing. What I'm a
Yeah,
little
but you're not changing passwords so you can just click all of the links
no.
willy-nilly. Like you still have, I mean, wouldn't, time be better spent maybe educating people on what a phishing scam looks like and what maybe might be suspect and not a good link to click on,
Yeah.
or just silly things like that. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
just talking out of my butt. I don't
No, no,
know.
no, but you're absolutely right. Is that I was actually thinking about writing up something that said like this is what you should do. Here's what I'm a little concerned about. Maybe this is a little paranoia, but I was worried.
Tinfoil hats, everybody.
Put on your tinfoil hats, boys and girls. What I was a little worried about is that if this is true, and I'm sure there are people all over the world that are trying to crack encryption and hack and such,
As you do.
is that if you salt your passwords and if somebody winds up breaking some sort of encryption, yeah, it's entirely possible that if your password, like I'm just going by like two things on my desk. I've got a pencil and I've got a Swiss Army knife. So what people say to do is just use two random words and then put the name of the service in the middle. So your password would be Swiss Army knife, Twitter, pencil. Well, okay, that's all well and good, but if that gets hacked,
Damn it, you figured it out.
if that winds up getting hacked by somebody, and they look at this and they go, oh, so this person decided to use Swiss Army knife, service name, pencil. You can go to Facebook and then you can log in as them because now you know that it's Facebook. So yeah, maybe I'm a little paranoid, but that's why I don't do that. All my passwords are completely unrelated to each other. And I even have some, as I've said, there are some that I generated with one password. So they're a bunch of random letters and numbers.
Yeah.
I'm more worried. I'm not even so much worried about losing. Yeah, I am worried about losing like maybe one important thing, but I'm more worried about somebody getting into one and then using that password to get into others.
Yeah. And that's why I don't salt my passwords. I
Nope.
use Lowry's. So yeah, Apple attacked. And really, but yeah, this stuff happens. I feel also like this stuff happens all the time. We just don't hear about it as much. But because it seems like it's been happening a lot lately, that we're hearing about it more lately.
Well,
kind
yeah.
of like a lot of the I don't know,
Higher
I don't want to
profile.
get political or anything, but it seems like a lot of gun violence we've been hearing more and more about,
Yep.
which happens all the time and you just don't hear about it. But now, because it's part of the debate,
Yeah.
you hear about every single one, and it seems like a sudden onslaught. Like people have just started losing their minds all of a sudden in the last couple of months. Like,
Well-
no, this goes on all the time. You just don't hear about it in the national scale.
Yeah, yeah. All right, let's move on to rapid fire. iOS 6.13 beta is released to devs. Fix the Konami code lock screen bug. I love this. That's an article title from 9 to 5 Mac. That has to be one of the funniest article titles I've seen in a while. This is that weird one where you have to like hit two buttons, jump, spin, say
Right,
woo
up,
three
up,
times.
down, down, A, B, select.
Yeah.
If you have a lock screen passcode on your screen, there's supposedly a way around it. If you
Yeah.
do this crazy neck break series of commands, and I have no idea. Like, props to anybody who could actually do that and successfully get past it. This quote unquote bug that would let you in, not knowing the passcode. But the most recent beta just released to devs today, and so probably will be released to consumers soon. in the near future. 613 fixes this Konami code of a lock screen hack.
What is this Jony Ive interview? I haven't watched this yet, but I've seen links
I haven't
to
watched
it.
it either. I'll probably watch it tonight after the show.
Okay.
But there was a BBC interview with him after he got that award last week. We didn't talk about it, but I saw it on a lot of the Apple sites last week, I believe. He got this design award by, I forget who gave it to him, but the BBC did an interview with him right after, and there's clips on this on 9 to 5 Mac from the interview where he discusses in depth kind of Apple's quote unquote out of the box thinking on product naming and a weird connection with David Beckham, which kind of surprised a lot of people. But I thought that would be interesting, and so that's up on 95 Mac. You can see it's I think it's 7 to 8 minute clip with just Jony Ive, which really, I mean, anytime anyone sits down and talks with Jony Ive, it's fascinating. He's on par with Steve Jobs and his thinking, really.
Yeah, and that's what we need is we need more people that think like Steve, or else we're just going to wind up getting crappy stuff with
I
screws.
completely agree. So I always think it's a good endeavor to watch his brain, and the wheels turn.
There's an article that you posted here about Foxconn hiring freeze. What's up with this?
Yeah, so not really related to the one we spoke about earlier, but there's a current huge hiring freeze at Foxconn, which is surprising because just before the holiday, they were on a huge hiring uptick, and they couldn't hire. I mean, amongst all of the debate and downpour of bad press against Foxconn and people are committing suicide and they're just a horrible place to work and people hate it. Amongst all of that, they couldn't hire enough people, lines around the block, to work at Foxconn regardless of all of that. Well, right now they're on a huge hiring freeze, which is crazy, and it looks like it's solely due to slow iPhone 5 production.
Well, this article, I don't know if this was an update to the article, but lowered, it's that a Foxconn spokesman said that it wasn't related to the iPhone 5 production. I don't know. I've been hearing both.
Just kidding.
No.
I could actually attest to the slow iPhone 5 production because it's actually having a effect near and dear to me. But if they're saying not, then it kind of sounds like they're just trying to counteract any bad press, which is, true to Chinese press, really.
Yeah, we don't know. This is funny. You can try out the new 5-inch iPhone 5 right now. This is what is this called? A papercraft model of the iPhone 5.
So you can print this out. It's a model of what a 5-inch iPhone would be like, and you can print it out, cut it up, fold it up, and make like a paper model of a 5-inch iPhone and hold it up to your face and feel like you have a Dell Streak 10 years later.
I want to do this. I want to print this out for my kids and just have them like put it in the classrooms, just see what happens.
Oh, and then take short video snippets like shaky cam and be like, I have footage. We found a prototype in the wild.
That would actually be funnier if you just made like a 6-inch iPhone. Look, here it is.
Photoshop. I'm doing it.
Photoshop.
That's it.
All right. Apps for this week. Mine is an app called Max. This is one that I found while I was figuring out how to rip FLAC from my CDs. And since iTunes won't rip in the FLAC format, I had to get some third-party app to do it, and so this is called Max, and it'll also convert from one format to another. So if you're interested in it, like I am, I still don't know what I'm going to do. It's like I said before on the show, it's space. I mean, my CDs are just taking up too much space, and you don't really need the physical discs anymore. If you can stream them lossless quality,
You're
then
telling me.
you don't need them. I know, I'm telling you. You shamed me out of wearing the belt clip, and this is next. we mentioned that I think yesterday in Robot Underpants. I said yes, Kacey has shamed me.
Oh, I need to watch it. I haven't
Yes, you
watched
do.
it yet.
All right, what's your app?
All right, so my app is a video game I loved. Possibly loved just the audio track and supplementary material more than the game itself. It's called You Don't Know Jack, and they have an iPhone app out now. I think it was either free or like $1. It's fantastic. It's literally just like the same game that you remember. Oh, you can buy.
Lottery numbers are 3, 14, 26, 2, 19, 8, 1, 5.
That's a lot of lottery numbers.
5,
Okay.
5, 5,
A lot of fives. I think I'm a winner.
21, 187, 6,
187?
Okay.
H, 17,
Oh.
26,
Oh.
44, 9.
I think he's just
And
naming
all
off all the numbers now.
Good luck. Thanks for playing.
Okay.
So for
So I
for
see,
those
like, you
people
can
that
actually buy credits, so it might be a freemium.
oh, okay.
I should have looked if it was. I'm so bad. Like, I download these and then I forget like how much they actually were in the iTunes.
There's apparently
answer.
there's a free version and a paid version.
Oh, okay. So I probably downloaded the free version, and so then that's why it's asking me to buy credits. But if not just for that goodness alone, just open the app and listen to kind of the rattling, radio commentary on it. It's fantastic. I love it.
I remember being at Macworld years ago, and I think it was a You Don't Know Jack pavilion, but they were doing a trivia thing. And it was a physics question, and I wound up getting the question right. I forgot what it was that I got, but it was some sort of like prize package or something like that. That was in Boston a long time ago.
Wow.
Those were the good
Metro
good
Boston.
times.
Yeah, that would have been a long time ago.
Good times. All right, are we done? We are done.
Yeah.
We're done with this show.
We've reached the end of our doc.
We have. All right, if you want to give us some feedback, the Infinite Loop Show at gmail.com. I am at StarMike on Twitter. Kacey Kaso, KACEYKASO is her Twitter ID. Infinite Loop TV is our Twitter account. And we're at infiniteloopshow.com. Give us a review on iTunes because I don't think anybody else has. Or no, we got one like silly one.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we wound up getting like a 2-star review because we were reporting on something that was right in the middle of facts coming out. It was about Foxconn, and not all the facts were out yet. So our show happened at the point where things were still coming out of China, and like the next day, all the better facts came out. So somebody gave us a 2-star review. So
the press at a Foxconn is just so bad that it has a tangible effect even on the podcast covering it.
yeah,
It's so horrible.
It's just so silly how people rate podcasts. All right, thanks for listening and watching. We'll talk to you next time.
Bye. I like Max.